In this episode, I get to speak with Fran Gallaher. We talk about all things self-care, how our reactions can dictate the rest of the interaction, and why all this is important for our careers. Listen in for more. Hey everyone, my name is Etta. Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. And today, as our bonus guest, I almost said ghost, our bonus guest, we have Fran Gallaher. We actually met in a workshop that she was doing, and it caught my attention because she also did it with an attorney, and there were several other people there, and I was able to meet and connect with like-minded people in completely different industries, which is kind of the epiphany of networking and joining, workshops outside of your comfort zone and outside of your industry, which is something that we always talk about here at the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. But again, we're going to bring in a different topic. We're going to provide you a different perspective, and it's not all going to be about legal skills, upskilling, it's more about internal work, right? We're always talking about external, we're always talking about tips and tricks and how to, be more efficient and organized and showing you all these other different things. So today's episode, warning, is going to be more about you. It's going to be about self-love, body love. It's going to be how to better react to situations, how to train yourself, and how to change your mindset really as a whole, how to be more intuitive. And I always say this, empathetic. We need to providing client experience to our legal industry. We are the front workers. And so we are the first impression that the clients receive. So we want to make sure that is received well. So without further ado, Fran, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience, please go ahead and do so.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fran Gallaher, just one G at the beginning, and I'm your guide to your empathic and intuitive nature. So empaths are the glue of our world. We're the people who sense the emotional substrate in any situation. We're the people who are in tune and aware. But until we learn how to use our empathic nature in an empowered way for ourselves, we are going to be the very best people pleasers, the very best supporters of everyone around us. And if we really want to add the fun to dysfunction, let's talk about how we absorb all the yucky juju that's in the room and in the family and at the holiday table and all of that. And where does that go, right? Well, one of the places it can go is our bodies. We can become a sponge. Another place that it can go is our spirit, our understanding of who we are. So we don't just feel other people's feelings. Okay, that is the definition of an empath. You literally feel other people's feelings. But it's not just that. We take on other people's priorities. We take on their agenda. We take on their purpose and we lose ourselves. So we're the most fantastic supporters in the world. And that's wonderful. We can make a living being a great supporter, but we've got to keep our own awareness of our own agenda, our own priorities, our own purpose, because otherwise we will build resentment. We will become martyrs. And I don't know if you guys know this, but what I was told a long time ago, and I have found this to be true, is resentment is the real cause of cancer. It's the real cause of debilitating illness. And we don't need it, right? So the first step in this whole process is to notice when your emotional experience changes. And the moment it changes, you want to be curious about whether that's your emotion or the emotion of someone nearby, or even someone you've just thought of. Once you begin to distinguish between your emotional experience and the emotions of others, then you're on your way. Then you can begin to notice when you are making their needs a greater priority than yours. So that I would love to say that everything I talk about, I do perfectly. No, I do not. And there's this pair of earrings that I cannot find. And the last time I wore them, a friend of mine said, "Oh, I would love to have those earrings." And so my first impulse was just to give them to him. But then I thought, no, I really like these earrings. I want to keep them. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, Fran, don't fucking lose. Oh, I hope you don't mind if I used that word.
No, go ahead.
Don't fucking lose those earrings, because now, deep down in your people-pleasing little heart, you just decided that they belong more to the person who really wants them than yourself. So now I'm both sad, amused, and if we can add one more, chagrined that I can't find those earrings. So really, this people pleasing goes so deep. It's just that we honor other people. And great, okay, wonderful. But let's honor ourselves also.
Yeah, I always said, like we were talking about right before the recording, that this topic really hit home with me when you said it, right? Because we obviously have spoken several times before today. And we've talked about other things that we'll talk about later on in this conversation. But this one in particular hit home, and I still get chills when I talk about it because it was part of my personal journey as well. It was literally one day I just woke up and I said, oh my goodness, I'm doing this to myself. Like I am the problem and the solution, and I need to fix this, and I need to fix this now. It's great to be the cheerleader of your family, your friends, your colleagues, anyone that, surrounds you and create your circle and create your life as a whole. I'm not saying don't do that. And neither is Fran. We're talking about not losing yourself in the process. And in particular, I'm going to speak personally to my mothers and my parents out there. As when we become parents, we tend to give our all, quote unquote, for those of you listening to the podcast, to our children, to our dependents, whether it's a fur baby, whether it's a baby that you physically, carried and delivered or adopted, or however this dependent came to your life. We tend to give them our all our love, right? They're unconditional. They, you couldn't live life without them, and all these things, again, like Fran was saying, they're all true. They are blessings, and they create a different type of happiness. If you're, if that's something that you're interested in, but don't lose yourself. I always give my audience a really simple, practical, yet nobody thinks about tip. Wake up as yourself. We often carry these labels, societal labels. Society loves to give us labels, and I mentioned this a lot on the podcast when I first opened up my podcast and my business. They wanted to introduce me as a mompreneur, as a femalepreneur, or whatever it is, right? They wanted to put all these little labels. And I said, no, I'm Etta Rosa, founder of Etta Rosa LLC, host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Like, why can't we just leave it at that? And then later on through conversation, they'll find out I'm a female, I'm a mother, and I'm all these other things. But before this, on this particular platform, I'm a business owner, regardless of all the labels that society has placed upon me. And so do the same thing to your personal life. And you say your name. If you're married, say your first name. Because that's another identity that you took on if you changed your name upon marriage. And so understanding that you are this person, who is this person without the children, without the spouse, without the companies, without the career, without anything else. Who do you want that person to wake up as, to live life as, and present yourself accordingly? So in my personal journey, I decided that I wanted my red hair that I always wanted. I've been wanting red, bright hair since I was 15, and my parents said no. And, there was an attempt, and I always say that my mom told the hairstylist not to really do it, to just fake it, because my mom, I know, didn't want it, but for my quinceañera I wanted this hair, and so whatever, it didn't work out, again, quote unquote. And so finally, in this my epiphany, my awoke stage, I said, I'm gonna go do it. And I did. Like, chopped it off, and I did my red hair. I'm going back for my master's. And it's not that you change, is that you're being the person that you always wanted to be, but that you lost yourself in conversation, in translation, in the perfectionism, in the people pleasing, in all the labels that society loves to put upon us. And these labels go so much further, especially genetic, generational trauma. It was very, in my mother's side, it was very prominent as Catholicism, but in my father, it was Hebrew, it was Judaism. So, I had these two worlds competing. And so, just in your own dynamic as you're being raised, you consider yourself, are you Puerto Rican? Are you Catholic? Are you Jewish? Are you this? Are you that? You're trying to find your way, and then you lose yourself because you're trying to be all the things, right? You're trying to be the parent, you're trying to be the good worker, you're trying to be the good friends and the sister and the brother and whatever, again, these labels are. And I love what you said, and I wrote it down. It's about in an empowering way, right? Because that's another thing that we talk about on the podcast. We're educating while empowering you, because it's one thing to sit in a classroom and learn the foundation. It's another to actually practice what you preach, practice what you learn, put into it daily, right? That's why it's called the legal practice, yoga practice, medical practice. You are practicing what you have learned in those fundamentals. And this is just the same. What Fran and I are talking about today, we're going to go now into intuition, right? About how you can tap into that intuition, which for me, that's a struggle today, even with the yoga and the meditation and the awareness. You're still learning. It's still going to be hard. You have to learn how to quiet the noise, right? In order to really hear your own voice versus, like what you were saying, those other voices and feelings. So talk a little bit about intuition, tapping into it, the importance of it, and really how that all ties into what we're talking about today.
Well, once you discover your empathic nature, that you really do feel other people's feelings, and then you stop and you notice if they're yours or they're the other person's. For me, anyway, the moment I asked that question, I stopped carrying other people's emotions. And I went from literally feeling them to simply knowing what's going on. I integrated that ability, and that's the empowerment I'm talking about. And I help my clients do that. Then we're ready to take that knowing a little further and realize that, first of all, our empathic nature makes us very emotionally intelligent. And that emotional intelligence also then makes us absolutely ready to develop our intuition. And one way I teach intuition is for us to ask ourselves, what do I have energy for? So this is the physical energy of whether to go to the party or don't go to the party, whether to, and you can set up little questions for yourself. Do I have the energy to either stop at the grocery store or stop at the dry cleaners? And even if you have to do it anyway, if you don't have the energy for it and you do it anyway, you're going to notice the consequences. One time I was teaching a workshop in person, and we were all going to go out to lunch at lunchtime, and we had chosen a restaurant, and all of a sudden I knew we shouldn't go to that restaurant, and I just didn't have the energy for it. So I picked a different one, and as we drove, we saw that there was the bomb squad in front of the other restaurant. And we would have either been locked out or locked in. I don't know which.
Wow.
So this energy is the same energy that lets animals stop dead in their tracks, because my dog one time saved my life, I think, because we were heading out the door and he wouldn't move. And I couldn't figure it out because he always wanted to go out. And lightning struck the light post right in front of the house. Well, he had stopped me because he felt something. So when we ask ourselves, what am I feeling? What are they feeling? And then what do I have energy for? We are empowering ourselves. And I'm going to tell you that emotional intelligence is going to lead the way in these years ahead. We're all done with the people who don't get it. Sorry, I don't think anybody on here listening to this is going to be one of those people who don't get it. I'm on TikTok, so follow me. And I told a story yesterday about a teacher who we were giggling in elementary school, and she said, "What are you doing?" And one of the kids was forced to answer and said, "We're passing cooties." And the teacher said, "Well, bring them up here and put them on my desk." Well, of course, the class erupted in absolute raucous laughter because cooties are imaginary things. So we get it. And so let's lead the way, you guys.
Absolutely. And I talk another, you're hitting all the things that we talk about throughout the podcast. So it's great that we can tie all these topics in. And we talk about emotional intelligence. Actually, our first bonus episode that launched today, actually, and well, I can't say today because this is going to launch later on, but during this recording, we launched our first bonus episode ever, and it was with another attorney. And we talk about emotional intelligence and how that ties into the client experience. Because again, we're the front workers. We're the ones creating that client experience. And I always use this simple example for us females out there that go to nail salons or hair salons. How do you choose your nail salon? How do you choose a hair salon, a nail salon, right? You do your research, you look at the 5 stars, you look at the, the quality, you look at all the reviews, you look at everything, right? You do your research, or you may be driving by, you look, it looks nice, and you walk in. Well, if you're not greeted, if you have to wait for an hour, if you're not, even acknowledge and say, "Give me a second," you're going to leave. Same thing goes for any business, but especially in the legal industry. Attorneys are a dime a dozen. There's plenty of attorneys out there. They have plenty of options. And the difference that it can make is our client experience. And that has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. We talk about difficult clients, how to handle those quote unquote difficult clients. Well, are they triggering you? Is there something that they're saying or the way that they're acting is triggering something inside you? Maybe they remind you of someone that you don't get along with outside of the law firm. Or maybe you yourself are hangry, like I was talking about. You haven't eaten, you're hungry, you're in a bad state of mind, your mindset's a little off. Maybe you're just having a really stressful day and you're taking that information in a little different. You have to, tap into yourself, goes back to your intuition, goes back to emotional intelligence and everything we've discussed so far. And it tells me that maybe the problem is not them, it's you, right? Or maybe it's the interaction between you two that it's not working. Maybe you both have to meet each other at a different level, not the same level, at a different level. So understanding empathy, understanding that the clients are coming into our law firm or requiring our businesses because they have something that's going on that's causing anxiety, stress, monetary loss, physical loss, grief, trauma, whatever it is that they're coming in for the legal matter that we're trying to handle. You have to understand they are already in a distressed mindset.
And may I jump in there?
Absolutely.
So it is our reactivity when we pull back, or if we lean forward, that reactivity is what lets us take on their bad juju. So it's not just that we feel their feelings or all the other things I said. So I do offer something called the Empath Repair Kit. And I do an energy clearing on a person. I get them centered in themselves and get them clear on their purpose. It can be a temporary purpose. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming, I'm going to save the world purpose. And it's on my website. And right now it's only $99.
Oh, nice.
So, but it's our reactivity that lets us take on all that bad crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are, and when they come in upset, we have to just stop and go into observer mode. Absolutely. Actually, the minute our emotions change, that's when we go into observer mode. Observer mode is the empath's point of power.
Absolutely. And silence is not, I don't even know how to reiterate this. If you are silent and you are not reacting back the same way they are, does not make you lesser than. It does not make you lower. It does not make you that you're giving up or that you're letting them win, or however you want to envision that transaction or that point of communication. It is giving you the power back in the situation. It is letting them know that you are here to listen and that you're understanding their needs, and that really all you're doing is listening. You let them calm down. You pause. If it's on the phone, give them a second. It's called flipping of the lid, right? Once the brain goes all the way in the back, you can say and do anything. They are not going to reciprocate. They're not going to focus on what you're saying. So why bother at that point? And if you meet with them with anger, it's just going to anger them even more, and it's going to escalate unnecessarily. So understand, giving them that space. It's like a toddler tantrum. I know I hate to like compare it to that, but it really is. When a toddler goes through a tantrum, it's because they are emotionally overload, right? And it's something that I'm learning now because my daughter's 6, but she still gets into these little funks, right? Like still in these little moods. And we're learning more and more about how to handle those certain situations in a way that we can understand her and she can understand us, that we're here for her no matter what. And we're giving her that comfort and we're giving her that space, but yet I want her to still feel safe. Because that's really what the person's looking for. They're looking for a safe space. They're looking for someone to actually listen to them and actually understand their concerns. You're probably not the first attorney that they've been to. You're probably, they've been turned down a couple times. They're tired. They probably are hungry. Who knows? They didn't have a good night's sleep. They got in a car accident right before. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, who knows? Somebody cut them off in traffic. You never know what is going on the other person, and I don't ever like to say go down to their level. I used to hate that phrase. Like, you're not going down, up at all. You're meeting at a different level, guys. And this is so important when it comes to these situations. If you're in a meeting room, in a conference room, which it has happened to me before, and I've done it, and trust me, it works. And the person is getting agitated, frustrated, flustered, right? And it goes back the 10-minute mark, right? And you're short on time. Your boss is like, let's go. And there's other factors. The best thing you can do is offer them a glass of cold water, anything cold, a cold beverage, because it automatically triggers the brain. And by you removing yourself from the situation, you remove yourself from that situation, right? And you kind of cleanse yourself. You give them time to breathe, which is what they need. And it resets their mindset, because now they have nobody to yell at. They have nobody to throw their emotions at. And you're coming with them with a welcoming gift, right? Hey, listen, I understand. There's really not much we can do about this, but this is what we can do. Here, have some water. Here, have a soda, coffee, whatever you give them.
That moment of silence is for us too.
Yeah.
Then we can reorient to ourselves, because for a moment they knocked us off our center.
Absolutely.
So I do want to jump into our third topic.
Yes, let's do it.
So I have this new program that is beginning in June. It's called BodyLove. What would it take for you to have a body you can love? And it is not a diet program, but it is a way of getting in touch with our body so that we stop stuffing our bodies with emotion, with bad juju, with beliefs, with the wrong food for us. I'm not talking about diet in terms of the way that word got ruined, that it's some kind of restriction. I'm talking about, what do you need to nourish yourself? The program is divided into 3 sections: relationships, habits, and health. So the nourishment that's right for you might be different than the nourishment that's right for me. The self-care for you might be different from the self-care for me. And relationships as empaths, remember how I talked about how we can become sponges? Well, what does a sponge do when it soaks things up? It can get larger, it can get swollen. There can be weight gain that will feel as if it doesn't belong to us. There can be inflammation, there can be bloating, because we might be soaking up a lot of the tension, the bad juju. That's just one example. The program goes through all kinds of inquiry into us getting in touch with ourselves. You know, it all started because I knew this one couple. And the man was an admitted horn dog. You know, he talked about how, don't mind me, I like to watch girls, you know, and his wife didn't seem to mind. If she did, she didn't say anything. And so she lost weight. Well, he must have been thrilled. She was gorgeous. Well, within a very short time, she regained the weight. And it was my idea that she couldn't set boundaries with him verbally. So she set the boundaries with her body, or her body set the boundaries for her. The other thing that can happen with people when you're an empath, let's make you really sweet and sensitive. And so maybe you're terrible at setting boundaries in the workplace, or you're terrible about getting your voice heard. So you get bigger and bigger so that you can take up some space, get your voice heard, and become more authoritative. Well, is that really what you want? So let's work on our relationship with our body so that we can find out what we need to do and be and believe to have a body we can love. These are all available. The Empath Repair Kit and BodyLove will be available on my website, reallyflourish.com. I'm gluten-free, but Flourish has the word flower in it, Flour. So I'd love to see you online for the Empath Repair Kit, and then again online for BodyLove.
Absolutely. And we'll put the links and everything we're discussing today on the description of both the YouTube and the podcast version. So if you want to communicate with Fran, maybe for coaching, if you want to purchase her products, all those links will be provided as well. Thank you, Fran, for coming on to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast and for introducing something that maybe people were not used to on our podcast, but we were able to tie it in and really let them know that if you don't invest in yourself and your health and your body, you're not able to share in an empty cup. So with that said, thank you so much, Fran. Thank you for your time and thank you for being on.
Thank you, Etta.